Hi everybody and welcome to the Zeta Connection. I'm Paul and this is Cyan. And today we want to discuss screen memory technologies and another new concept that we've been told about as well. So do you want to start with the questions? Or?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is in response to a question we were asked after we'd done an interview with Julie McVeigh of Unordinary Made Ordinary. So we're just trying to answer that question here. So yeah, screen memory technology. Where do we start?
Well, I guess we could talk about why do races use screen memory tech.
Yeah.
So I've got a quote that I will read. The races use screen memory technology to block observation. And they say these are observational processes. All beings use observation. The mind of a being must be in stillness to observe correctly. When you are allowing others to observe you, then your ability to hold in stillness is diminished. When a human is taken, contacted, or abducted, their mind will be in disarray. We need the mind to be still to allow a human to enter a craft, and screen technology is used to reduce the possibility of any of us, including the human, becoming injured during the transition to the craft.
And that's a direct quote.
Yeah, that's a direct quote from the Zeta Mind.
Yeah, so I think we need to break that down and
Yeah.
talk about what that actually means.
Yeah, for sure. So there's 4 different types of abductions, contact, and screen memories. And so we'd like to just talk about those different processes. So type A is used by races to cloak the fact that the person has been interacted with. The human may injure themselves or another person or another being if they don't have that screen memory. This is a protection mechanism for the races and also for the hybrids or the humans that are being contacted. If the screen memory isn't applied, then a person may be fighting as they're trying to go onto the craft and moving through vibration, and that could cause everyone to have an issue. But one of the important things is we need to discuss is about the local mind and the local construct. So the higher self or spirit person is incarnated into the physical form, and then they create a filtering process all the way through childhood. You're learning all about all of the different ways to interact, all of the rules that you have, your automatic responses. And that's a filtering process. And that filtering process then allows you to interact with in millions of different situations. That filtering process needs to have screen technology applied to it if it's being interacted with by extraterrestrials, so that that specific local mind construct doesn't end up having issues. Now, a lot of people don't like screen memories. I'm not saying that I'm a fan of them either, but they do have a reason for existing. And so with the type B, which is the second one, this screen memory is a narrative and it's used to keep the mind occupied while a process, which is the opposite of what's happening, is being undertaken by beings with a conscious human. So often a human, and this is what the Zetas are saying, will be led to believe that they are performing a different function when aboard a craft. They will believe that they're actually piloting a craft or walking in a forest or doing something completely different because now the mind is relaxed and the body is calm. And those screen memories are probably the most typically applied to people when they're undergoing a contact situation. Understand that if the person's a hybrid and their extraterrestrialness, if we want to say that, is what's actually interacting with the beings, the symbiotic mind or the spirit mind can't be involved in that process. And so they'll want to talk directly with the extraterrestrial portion of the hybrid. So this is why the type B process is also placed as a narrative. The other one is the Part C technology, and this is also used, and generally it's designed to fail and this is very interesting technology, just going to read again. The Type C technology is a temporary screen memory. And the technology is temporary that would support a human onto a craft and through a wall and onto a craft and then to be returned. But it's pointless, they say, to completely block all memories of the encounter if you're trying to develop humanity via the hybrid process, because if the person never remembers that they have had contact, they'll never change their behaviour. And so we see with the Type C technologies and screen memory techs that they often fail when a person gets around 35 or 40. That's the other one. And they start to remember a lot of things in regards to their contact. Now, with the Type D, this is where a person who is actually trained as a hybrid, trained by extraterrestrials, then supports another growing extraterrestrial or hybrid into their own experience. And though that type of screen memory is basically revolves around synthetic quantum environments, and it's interlaced with screen memories. It's actually quite a technical process, but I just wanted you to know that it exists. There's actually a Type E that we've never written about, and it's called a construct. And constructs are used to teach you and hybrids about your own behaviour. So think about this. Have you ever wondered why the same situation keeps occurring to you? Okay. We've been told that they place the person into a construct, and that construct is, say, a lesson plan. And all of the main characters that are always involved, all the people around you, will always play the same type of roles. And the Zetas and other races will watch your response, and they expect a different response each time the trigger is pulled on the scenario. And so you may be wondering, I keep entering into this same situation. It's always the same. It makes me feel the same or whatever. And then you wonder why the situation keeps occurring all the time. If you're a hybrid, it's because it's what's classed as a construct. It's got nothing to do with screen memories or a synthetic quantum environment, but it is very much associated with an energetic environment that's been set up and created. Now, the reason they've done this is because, let's suggest that they wanted to allow reptilians to come to a person. Now, reptilians and the abductors and other races would see a specific SQE that had been set up. Even if the SQE was a copy of an example that was about to take place. And so they know that those beings would never enter an SQE at all. So what they do is they just set the energy around the hybrid or the contactee as a construct, knowing that they won't be able to see that this is a test for the hybrid, I guess. And in technical terms, it's classed as a honeypot. And so they all come in, play the role that they would always play. The person that's being tested reacts in the way that they do. And the races from wherever that person's race is from, they watch to see how you will react. And of course, over time, you start to think about the way you're reacting, you start to think about your responses, and you learn from that. And in doing so, you then move past that construct. It's a very, very interesting process that we've just found out about, really. And it makes a lot of sense, especially with some of the stuff that's been going on lately. Okay, so hopefully, I could explain that.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of specify that when we're talking about these different methods and technologies, we are just talking about what we've been told from the Zeta race, and they're not applicable to any other race that we're aware of. That's not to say that there might not be, but
they could be.
They could be, but we're just simply telling you what we've been told from the Zetas about the Zetas.
Yeah, but I think it makes a lot of sense if you understand the categories of the screen memories, that you could have, say, like a type A where you're taken on board a craft, and you may not remember that now. This comes back to things like missing time.
Yeah, we should give some examples.
Yeah, okay. Did you want to give some examples of missing time?
I'm thinking of somebody we spoke to recently, and they went to drive to work.
Right.
Then all of a sudden they were at work.
Right.
And they've got 30 minutes missing, just gone.
Right. So in that category, where would you place that?
I would place that in type A.
Yeah, it's a type A screen memory.
Yeah. So they have no recall of their experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just completely blocked.
They've looked at their watch. Wow, like an hour's gone. What's happened?
Yeah.
Or a day's gone. I've got to have a shave. Yeah, they've not got a beard. They haven't got a beard. And that happens. Happens to a lot of people actually. Missing time.
I think we have a lot of contact all the time, and I'd say 70% of it we're completely unaware of.
Yeah, it's a high percentage of it, but the thing is we have to really ask ourselves why, and if we understand that moves across to type A and then type C, where you're taken across for contact, there's discussions take place. But then even the next day, it doesn't have to be years later, the next day, the screen memory drops and you go, oh, wow, that happened last night.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always that fragment, isn't there? There's always something that leads you to realise that something happened last night.
Yeah.
Now, if you're by yourself when it happens, it's pretty hard to unpeel that screen memory. But if you're with somebody else and you go, like last night, I had a dream that this happened, and the person goes, that's interesting because I had a dream that was the same. The next thing you know, it all starts, the layers start to peel away, and you go, wow, hang on, we were actually contacted last night.
Type B is more interesting for me.
You
the
think
narratives.
So?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think, goodness, I've got so many examples of that.
Okay.
I could be here for an hour talking about it, but I think type B, given the narrative, I reckon that really does depend on how old the person is as to what they get, because obviously they're not going to take a 3 or a 4-year-old onto a craft and give them the screen memory of flying a high-tech spaceship.
No, but they might.
That's where the clowns and the bunny rabbits and the
playing
owls
with the toys, or
comes into it.
I think both of us actually ended up looking for a toy when we were children that never existed. We didn't realise when we started talking about them. Oh, you did that too. Okay.
Yeah. Flying craft. That would be the adult version.
Well, really interesting, isn't it? Like, is it possible that they have people that are actually learning to fly craft? Look, anything's possible, but you've got to understand these craft move at the speed of light, or underneath. And there's a whole lot of technology, there's consciousness, and I would suggest, as I have in other interviews, that it's not just the human flying the craft. There'd be a lot of other consciousness supporting the human to do that. Yeah. If it was actually happening.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then it's, obviously something else is going on. They've got a screen memory. They're like happy as because they're flying a craft, but in the background, their extraterrestrial consciousness is actually having a cup of tea with another ET and they're talking to each other, and the human's going, I'm flying a craft. This is
my type of alien.
Your type of alien? What?
Drinking tea.
Cup of tea. Okay.
The temporary screen memories. There's always something they leave, isn't there? Always a little catch.
Always, yeah. They're type C.
Type C.
Yeah.
The dentist. The dentist is my biggest screen memory, temporary screen memory
that never
experience.
Well,
no. You see, what they did is they perfectly meshed together a real life event with a screen memory event to make me, believe that a completely different version of the event took place to cover up what was actually going on.
Okay.
That sounds really
That's
complicated.
Cool. Sounds cool.
Yeah, but long story short,
yeah.
Dentist, I thought I'd gone under anaesthetic, woke up in a room full of children, in the recovery room, lots of nurses, turned out 30 years later, when I was talking about it with my mum, that there was never any children. It was just me. She was with me the whole time. I never left the dentist chair.
Yeah.
There were no other children. It was just me. And then that screen, that made me realise that was a screen memory.
Mm.
And then that screen memory failed. And then all of a sudden, I knew that the recovery room had been a craft.
Yeah.
And there were children in there, all like my age.
Yeah.
You know, I could talk about that for an hour. It's very interesting. Vikings. Remember when we were watching Vikings?
I was going to say, where's the Vikings? Yes, we were watching TV and for 3 hours. And
we were binge watching Vikings.
Yeah, binge watching. And then I thought, this sounds really familiar. And it turned out, I paused it, I was able to recite the next line in Vikings and the next one and the next one.
Mm.
And we'd realised that we'd watched the whole 3 hours the day before.
Yeah.
But we were now missing the 3 hours. We don't know what's happened there. So not sure even where to categorise that. But anyway, but in regards to constructs, just be aware that if you feel that you always seem to be in the same situation over and over and over, that it doesn't mean that your life's a construct. It just means that that situation that keeps coming to you, they're looking for you to try to resolve that construct around you as well.
Growth.
Growth. Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's one of the biggest questions we see on forums in discussion groups is, how do people regain the actual events? How do they remove their screen memories? What do we think of that?
Well, I mean, I listened to Kathleen Martin talking about screen memories on Spaced Out Radio the other day. And Kathleen's a trained quantum hypnotherapist. And, when she was asked about that, she said that the problem is that if people had their memories stripped away incorrectly, that the subconscious mind can actually create them. And so you can imagine that you did have some contact, but now, of course, your mind's filling in all of the holes. That's why it's really important to have somebody who knows how to do it correctly. Personally, I wouldn't ever have it done. I'm not interested, but I think each person needs to make up their own mind about whether they will or they won't. But what I did want to say was that if you do choose to remove screen memories, then you've got to understand that it's like scaffolding. The scaffolding that you're removing is supporting something. And as you remove that scaffolding, that there's the potential for things not to be what you thought they were. So up to you what you do. It's your life, no problem.
I would definitely suggest that person make sure they have an appropriate support network around them before they sought to do that. And
qualified people in it.
Properly qualified people, Sure. Could open a whole can of worms.
Or a can of experiences.
Anything else to say?
No, I'm fine. So this is the end of our blog for today. And we thank you for joining us. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button because we want to see people join, and we know people are enjoying what we're doing, so that's really good. And if you want to, leave a comment. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
If you have any questions, just leave them there.
Okay.
I'll find your button.